Just because.
Just nigger clothes.
There was some governance and
Oh, is that yours, Gary?
crossover. and-
Oh.
Yeah, that's mine, yeah. Yeah, it almost became unworkable, so.
Right.
It's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that hard,
No, it doesn't.
right? Like you need a person who has serving it right standing behind the bar.
If you sell booze.
If you sell booze.
If you're not, you don't.
No,
Not a club.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's all you need is like sell booze. There's a serving right. Doesn't have to be an employee. Doesn't mean anything other than they're not drinking and they have serving right. That's all. Which is like 1 hour of your time doing an online course.
Is that all it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Oh, how to recognize if someone's put roofies in a drink. And like I did it. It took me an hour.
Okay.
You can literally, it's like an open book with the PDF, control F the whole thing.
It's also been interesting like this half because the seniors have grown so much with the women's team and the men's team that planning is co-associated at the same time. Which what we want to do. We'll struggle with we reach capacity.
Oh, yeah, with 60, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
because
a lot.
well, we have like 50 guys, 50 women, right? So it's like hopefully half of the women and men don't show up.
Right.
Or else everyone's outside.
It looks like a big space, that doesn't seem like a lot of people.
I think it's the bathrooms. Is it the bathrooms? Is it the exit? Yeah.
It's also, given what's going on around here,
Right.
flood inspector's not coming down and all this, right? Without this license. Funeral.
There you go, Gary. You can have your seat.
Okay, this is why it's, took that one. I'll take it.
It's definitely a hard sell to leave your car up in front
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I evicted them. I just wanted to make sure they were standing around chatting. I didn't know how long they would stay there. I'm gonna exit the, oh, no I won't.
So let's me do this.
I was gonna say, is that the easiest way to project, or should I just give you the HDMI cable?
It's set up. We can just launch with this. Alright, so everyone's had a look at the agenda.
Yep.
Right? There's 3 motions there that I would like to go through tonight. First one's pretty simple. And all that is that motions 1 and 2, we'll put them online. They will be special motions requiring 2/3 majority, and the vote will be recorded. So what your answer is will be recorded into the minutes. Again, we don't usually do that at the board, but for this one, it's a big decision. Your name should go beside your answer.
Fair enough.
So you're asking for the process to be approved or the
No.
actual motion?
So that the next 2 motions in the meeting,
Yeah.
right, motions 1 and 2, will be online. It'll be a special motion requiring a 2/3 majority for a yay,
Yeah.
and that the votes will be recorded.
Yeah, I'm just asking, are you asking us to approve in general, that's how we're gonna operate, rather than the actual motion?
Yeah. So motion 1 is, can we do that for these next 2 motions?
Okay, gotcha. I would take out in reference to Prairie Road in any motions we're doing, because that's gonna impact their ability to negotiate ultimately, but I just don't.
You want to just call it the property by Windsor Park or something?
Potential purchase, right?
Okay. Can you access the agenda?
I didn't get to see that.
Okay.
That'd be slow.
And maybe just clarify CW board members as opposed to BSC. I'm just being super pedantic, sorry guys.
Sorry, are you looking at the agenda?
Okay, that's the motion.
Number
That's the
5.
first one we have to decide, and then the rest of it, and then we gotta do these 2 of those.
Oh, this is the CW board.
And that's the.
This is number 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do.
This is what we're gonna do tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if somebody could send that to me, I could just cut and paste it right into there.
It should be in, did you not, oh, are you not?
So I'm hammered away right now. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I've got it up. And this is
Okay.
the online
Okay,
version.
I'll stop here.
Okay, so, yeah, the motion. I move that the board vote on some of the motions 1 and 2 regarding the purchase of the property to be done online, by online voting, in order to allow all board members not in attendance to vote. Vote on complete by 9 p.m. 30 December 24, and results of the board no later than 12 p.m. 31 December 2024.
Do we want to say the property adjacent to Windsor Park? Do we want to keep it as vague as the property?
Oh, if we're gonna save that property, we might as well just say the name of it, but.
a property?
We define project property.
Hey, what's the problem with having the name, the street?
I just think it could just have that one property, or if someone else probably had it, like it's, if the owner knows that this is all approved and he has to read this is, we're not.
Well, both just saying we're interested. That's all we're saying.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I know it's a bit, but I just think it's best practice. I wouldn't have it in the next one either, to be honest, but maybe the lawyers need to. And,
Because then it else keeps us on, then keeps going forward down the straight and narrow. We're talking about this one thing. We're not talking about Windsor Cafe, we're not talking about down the street.
again, you guys back me up, but I have to take offense to him saying it's the opportunity of a lifetime, right? It may or may not be. We haven't had time to really consider that.
Absolutely.
And so we're almost marketing it for the seller, for one, right? So as a board, I think we got to take all that off. I don't know if you guys feel the same thing. And again, I think it's a great opportunity, but there's just some process here that it just seems weird.
Well, it's like taking the emotion out of it, which is hard to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that when you look to buy a property, like, you know,
Yeah.
for your family or something like that, you, as much as you think, okay, you know, I'm not gonna get emotionally invested in this, it's hard not to. And I'm not speaking for myself, because I've, like I keep saying, I've only been here for a few years, but I can imagine for someone like Spice, it's as much as I think maybe it's just hard to take it out of the emotion out of it, right?
Yeah, but he seems to be acting on our behalf, right? And I've had issues with Spice in the past, fair enough, like that's what he does, he raises money,
Right.
right? So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
sells,
right.
he sells, so
Yeah,
anyways.
okay.
Just a small thing, I think it's a great opportunity, it's location, it's adjacent to our park, so it's obviously a great opportunity. Whether it's opportunity of a lifetime, you know, we can figure that out.
Maybe what it boils right down to is how much of a premium are we willing to pay for him to wait? That's the question.
That's
We all
where
agree, we all
That's
agree
why
on
we're in
that,
tonight,
right?
yeah.
Alright, so that's okay. And Mark said, Niche is not gonna take a $200,000 haircut. So and then and Matt said,
Ask is the start.
ask is the start.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of, like, yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying, so just weirdly, me and my family in the last year have bought and sold 3 properties, 2 of them in Suffolk Bay. And my mom's old house, right?
Yeah.
And what we did was, we put it on the market for 1.6, but not maintenance hadn't done really on us in about 7 years. Because my dad was a mason man, he was a plumber, but he died. So my brother wasn't doing the maintenance, I came back to Victoria and I was fucking. So we put it on the market at 1.6. I didn't think it was worth 1.6. And we didn't get any offers or interest in 1.6. We dropped it by $100,000. Waited 30 days, nothing happened. Then a realtor said, hey, let's try this. Let's take the clause out of the real estate contract that says you're obliged to ask if someone comes along. So we did that, dropped it to $1 million. And then we put it back out in the market. I think we had 15 offers, a whole bunch around $1 million. And then then 2 at 1.2 and 1 at 1.35 with no conditions. That's what we took. Actually, there was one at 1.3, and they had a condition of a feasibility study. Bullshit, right? So forget it. So we took the guy at 1.35. He was not a developer. All the rest were developers down in the 1.1, 1.2 zone. So that house was over on Falkland Road, not too far from this property. And me and my partner Jen, we sold her house in North Oak Bay. We house hunted for the last year of houses in that zone, that price zone. And so I think this house, the lot, could maybe only be worth 1.2, but that Oak Bay's, what's the CRD put that
Yeah.
noise
Yeah.
covenant on there?
Yeah.
So that can probably scare developers away, but at the same time, it is saying the listing, it's zoned for a fourplex. So then it's this weird, okay, where's the developer gonna make money? Where are they gonna lose money, right? So are they gonna write a check for 1.2 to sell 4 townhouses? What's the magic number, right? Bring them there on a day where you can't smell the pump house, you know, right? So, yeah, are we paying a premium of about $200,000? We might be, but we're not gonna know. We'll never really know, right? That's the thing. So, same with my mom's place, it was like, yeah, and my brother thought it was worth way more than that. I always thought it was worth about 1.3, so I was right. Didn't like being right. So, but you do, every property is a little bit different. But I think in Oak Bay, I think lot price is about 1.2. But that's why I think that's maybe the premium we're paying. Maybe we're paying $100,000 of a premium. Because at one point you're saying, oh, you gotta come in at 1.48, but wait a minute, they don't like it. The developers don't like it because of the frontages, you can't get the setbacks. Okay, if they don't like it because of that, wouldn't that mean that we don't need to be at 1.48?
Yeah, and somebody buying it to live in it is probably out of the picture. So like your mom's place, you've got multiple types of buyers.
Yeah.
This one, I think it's less likely that you're gonna get somebody to come in and be like, I'm gonna live in that house, or I'm gonna knock it down and build something new. Because to build something new there, the price push that you're pushing that price up, that property up to is probably more than what it's actually worth, right? So a developer makes the most amount of sense.
Let me speak this one. How can we answer the question you're posing with the agreement for our members? Is that maybe one of the things we have to do here? Like, what process are we gonna have that will allow our members that we represent to know that we're not getting screwed?
We're paying a fair market.
We gotta
Yeah.
talk to somebody that can advise us on that outside of these guys.
Absolutely,
You could-
and we should.
You could ask,
Right.
you could get appraisals done.
Yes. We should probably get, and that's probably that due
Well,
diligence.
isn't that gonna be part of the due diligence?
Absolutely.
There's
So
gonna
this
be-
is,
You
so going back to like, what we're
easily
deciding
put that as a
tonight
condition.
is, do we start the process to purchase? Not that we will
Yeah,
purchase
exactly.
2409 Curry. It's that we start doing the work, that we start committing as a board, the energy, the focus, the time.
Yeah, like
Right.
is the process
To walk down this
negotiate
path.
now or down the road?
Well, there's some money, there's definitely some money, the appraisal's not really that much.
Yeah.
But, like,
We can probably get multiple appraisals done for free.
You know,
Yeah,
there's gonna be some GC costs coming down the pipe, like, there's gonna be some real hard, probably pretty expensive things coming down the line over this 9 months. And,
So can I ask, so the motion number one, reference to the letter of intent, and there's a pricing letter of intent, right?
Yeah.
So
The
if we approve motion one, then we're answering that question for you. We're saying we think it's fair value, am I correct?
Why don't we
Well,
put
we can then, so that, this is gonna be that, like you said, by starting off by signing a letter of intent, we'll start that dance on those numbers, right?
That's not what I'm saying here, because we're approving whatever numbers.
No, we're signing a letter of intent, then we'll then go in front of Steve. He'll come back, he said it'll go, this will start the
But
back
the
and
letter's
forth.
gonna go in at 148 or whatever we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
I think that's what we're signing off on tonight. Tell me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to get through this.
so we're not gonna sign off on that tonight. So the first motion is that we're going to put this online. We're
Yes,
gonna have a couple days to reflect,
okay.
right? So the first motion, right, is, are we gonna put this online, special vote, right? Which, because that gives everyone else who's not here a chance to vote. That's why we're.
That's fine, I got no problem.
So the second one is
You have a
like,
problem
yes.
with
And we can,
So why don't we just
work
get
it.
through the
Let's
first
get that
motion,
first one.
rather,
Yeah,
because
okay.
we're spending a lot of
Yeah.
time without doing that.
So the first motion, right, I move that the board vote on the subsequent motions 1 and 2 regarding the purchase of a property to be done online in order to allow board members on attendance to vote. Voting will be completed by 9 p.m. 30 December 2024. It will be a recorded vote requiring a 2/3 majority to be carried. Results will be sent to the board no later than 12 p.m. 31 December 2024.
And compiled by and how? Is there?
So it'll be on, like, I mean, like, it's the same one we've done the other. They'll do an online form, it tracks all the things.
Just one, yes.
I will-
Us, and then we can go back to us.
Yep, and so we voted on that in August, that we'd do online voting,
Okay, cool.
right? The board passed that back in August, so we can do that.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe you gotta take a subsequent, because we wanna change these motions in any way, right?
well, we will change them,
Okay.
but those will still be motions
Okay.
1 and 2.
Motions 1 and 2, perfect, take out subsequent. Can I just, in general speak, are we all happy, the ones that are here, that those guys still have discussions to be had? Things like price may be an issue, they're telling us something, I was a bit concerned that they were saying it's a done deal. I don't know why, because everything they told us there wasn't, it's been on the market for a long time and no one else can develop it.
Well, I think they view it as a done deal because of the tightness of Steve Niche, Mark Wyatt, and Chris and Matt in these discussions and negotiations.
Okay.
That's their perception of a done deal.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that these are people that play this way,
I understand, yeah.
and a handshake is good enough, and then you let the lawyers hammer out the details.
And the other thing to think about.
Sorry, I move this back. Someone want to second that first motion
Oh, yeah.
about the online vote?
I second it.
I second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, motion carried. All right.
You gotta record all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
online or
gonna
not?
be, you
Oh,
recording
you're
that,
recording.
right?
I've got it.
He's-
Okay.
Okay.
I can't vote it.
Oh,
All right. So, again, proposed motion. This was me writing in a bit of a silo over the last week. So we can change it, it can be whatever we want it to be. So that is the motion that I wrote.
Yeah.
That is not committing us to purchase 24/9. It's to start the process
Yeah.
towards that purchase.
How much, and I know we're spending a bit of time on this, but I think it's important. The number that is gonna go on that letter of intent, I would imagine it's pretty hard to negotiate that
Yeah.
number down. Because if I was the seller and you sent me a letter of intent at full asking and then said, well, actually, we wanna drop that by 50 grand, I would be like, well, you know what, you can go, you go.
yeah.
Price
I'm
negotiations.
just like,
in
so
one
I'm
direction.
just trying, like, I'm trying to play out a scenario and my second question is, if we end up negotiating, and maybe we don't, maybe we look at this as a club and as a board, this isn't the purchase of a home that we're gonna live in, this is the purchase of a headquarters for the club, so it's quite different in my mind anyway, that's like, it's not the same as buying something you're gonna move into and live in. If we end up negotiating with the seller, who does that negotiating on behalf of our club?
Yes. So that would be the second one where it's talking about having that planning group.
Yeah,
The
Hey,
group,
again.
not the bill.
So, but it could be whomever, right? We can appoint whomever is our negotiator,
okay,
right? But that's why I was making that as like the planning group,
yeah,
giving a small group of people the authority to represent the club
yeah,
without having to come back for every decision,
yeah,
right? To get some agility and flexibility.
yeah,
If those aren't the right people, we can change it,
fine.
right? I'm not, again, not tied to anybody. That
Yeah.
was me putting something in front of.
But we have to, from what Nate said, we gotta put a number on it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Can we add in
My
the-
sense.
So yeah, I think we can change that the first step will be signing delivery of the letter of intent after
Well, actually,
discussion of.
Yes.
part of the
Or-
first thing, we gotta figure out what we want in that LOI.
You can
That's
also
the
put in,
part.
Before this goes
Yeah, that's what I'm
in.
trying to get, yeah.
Yeah.
you also put in the conditions, that we put in that the offer is that number,
Yeah,
but then have like, you know, notice assessments.
yeah. Does Nate put that together, a finalized version of that?
Yeah, so he's the one who's gonna be writing it.
Yeah, we could add.
And he's the one who wrote this one.
We do the due diligence conditions, could be, I don't know, 3 appraisals to determine if this is the correct price.
Yeah.
I'm
That's-
sure Nate's.
I'm not comfortable with this group deciding the price.
No,
we're not.
That's where I'm
But
going.
the letter of intent, right?
No, I've never,
It's-
like, I've never visited the property.
The letter of intent, that's what I was gonna be doing.
I mean, the fact that Nate's, I think Nate's.
Page, but in the diligence
No,
conditions, we could say.
So
no,
Rob,
he's appraisal.
ease me here. The
Right.
wording of this, I believe, let's say it again, the letter of intent does have a price, does have a bunch of stuff,
But we can change this too.
okay?
We're gonna change it tonight.
So we can change the letter of intent, we can
We're
write
gonna
it.
change this motion now, because I'm not.
Oh, there's
There
a-
it is.
Well, yeah. Oh,
Oh, hi.
where are you?
Who's that?
Oh.
I am in the Philippines.
Oh,
Hi, John.
Hello, John.
it's not too
Hi
bad.
guys.
So,
So we had
Get
a
him up to speed, or?
5.8 on the Richter scale wake up call this morning.
nice.
Wakey,
Okay,
wakey.
so I'm just gonna address a question in the room here, John, if you don't mind.
No, please go. I'll drop it.
Okay, so we could play lawyer games all day. I don't really want to do that, but I'm just going to point out on the letter of agreement, paragraph 5, subparagraph 6, satisfactory assessment of the financial feasibility of the purchaser's proposed project. That's a really big umbrella that can be used to wiggle out if we decide that price is too high.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find, I have gone through the letter, and I'm sure you have more than a few times, the things that people keep worrying about, right? We have so much wiggle room here. Effing ridiculous.
Yeah, I think when I saw this original, I thought he had seen it, and I thought this price was like locked in. I mean, Matt, I think, makes the point that he thinks that this is the price it has to be, and that's the way it was presented to us originally. So it's kind of new information. I thought he had seen this.
Well, a bit of this is like somebody is going way out of their way to do something nice for us. You know, if we end
Are they
up,
though?
But-
That's what we-
but the
where
flip-
are they?
But the flip side of that is
He's gotta
he could
buy
be
it.
sitting on this property for the next 2 years and nobody wants to buy it.
Yeah.
And then we buy it, and then we're like, well, you know what, we gotta get rid of it. Now we can't sell it to anybody because nobody wants to buy it. Because it is an oddball. It's perfect for us.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
My 2 sons are gonna be playing for this club for many, many years. I wanna walk across the street and have beers. I want this to happen. But, take it from me, I want this to happen. But I just wanna make sure, and that's a really valid point right there, that number, yeah, those 3 guys are super passionate about it, and they're emotional. They're emotionally behind this. So am I, but I'm on a board, and I'm gonna have to answer to parents coming up to me and saying, "What the fuck are you guys thinking?"
so it's worth pointing out, like, you might, Matt kind of came out of the closet tonight,
Yeah.
said very clearly, I'm putting the 50K on the
Yes.
whole board so the club can stop worrying about that shit right now.
Yes.
Okay, my personal opinion, Matt and Mark are getting along like peas in a pod. And they are looking at this as their legacy project that they can kind of, you know, take a lot of credit for. So I can almost, like, I don't want to say guarantee because you never say it, these 2 guys are going to come forward with either direct money or their connections. And that's all. They want to make it happen, and they will make it happen. I can't help but notice the difference. When we went through the whole SOS thing, right, back in the fall, there was a whole lot of hand-wringing. We met with Matt once or twice. There was but he didn't really engage. Nobody really jumped up to sort of say, this is how we solve the problem. Suddenly, he wants to go do this, right? And what's changed is really, again, the structure of the opportunity is relatively unique.
Mhm.
To your point, Gareth, like, I'm a soldier, right? I'm not a real estate guy, I'm not a lawyer, right? When I went for breakfast with Matt, who is a much better businessman than I'll ever be, right? And hearing him talk, I'm like, okay, so if he thinks it's a good idea, right? And if he's willing to put like 50K down, no questions asked, right? As his ante in,
Yeah.
I will take some of my druthers and kind of put them here and go, okay, I'm gonna consciously go forward with this.
Yeah.
Because if that guy's saying, this is an opportunity that should not be passed by, I have to go, right, that's someone's call who knows much better than I
But none
do.
of those 3 have to sort this out, and we do. So that's on our table. Even though I said take it off the table, it's on our table, right?
And that's totally fair, and I get this, but there is, so when I talk about like lines of effort, that's that sort of chart,
Yeah.
we can start doing the walking towards a purchase.
Yeah.
And we can start walking that path with the letter of intent, clearing the conditions, the fundraising, without answering this question here. This question does have to get broached and resolved, but that doesn't get between here and the purchase, right?
I guess my only concern is I just don't have the faith that we're going to be, without this thing solved, that we would be able to raise, and it won't be 2 million, it'll be like 2.5 million.
But that's
to
the
get this
out.
all done or more,
So but there's outs for that too.
if we don't get enough raised.
Yes.
Again, that's the project financial.
By
feasibility.
September 20, by
And-
September.
And then it's also the fundraising, right? So straight up, like if by September we don't have the money, we walk away.
Yeah,
But
so
that's
Spicer
also-
talks a big game, it's like $500,000 donor, $250,000, he's, I'm gonna lead that effort. So that becomes like, okay, rubber to the road, you gotta get the first $500,000 guaranteed by August 31st, or we gotta pull the plug on the deal, right? I
So-
mean, it
But
puts
you've
pressure
also
on
got,
everybody.
you've also got Matt, who I don't personally know at all. Seemed to me he was quite prepared to basically lose the 50K
Yes.
if he had to. That's how confident and how, you know, invested he is. And he's a guy who knows this market, has done this, built things, and has multiple businesses, etc., etc. So, I mean, to me, what I keep hearing around the table is, like, certainly the majority of people here want to make this happen for the longevity of the club. I 100% do. But we have multiple outs throughout the process for quite a long period of time.
Can we go through those outs and just make them clear for all of us here?
Yep.
Last, you seem to be across them, George, you got them?
Yeah.
So,
He's got the,
if motion one passes, we're delivering letter of intent. So our outs are what and where with that?
So, the first one for the letter, we sign the letter of intent, the dance happens, it goes forward, Steve accepts it.
Yeah,
Okay? We now have 9 months to clear all the conditions in there.
Why? Because
Hold
that's
on.
in our letter of
That is
intent?
the letter of intent.
hold on a second, Rob. It has in 30 days. So letter of intent goes to Steve. He goes, no, I'm not signing this, fix this. Goes back to Steve, let's say he signs it, okay? Then we've got 30 days to then draft a purchase agreement.
And then there's an end date
Yeah,
for the purchase agreement, like 30 September.
yeah, and then we have time to clear all the conditions, which there are
So this letter of intent says the closing date is 30 September 25.
25. And the biggest one is zoning.
Right. Well, okay.
Well, I think,
Not
based on what Nate
limited,
said.
isn't it?
Nate said.
But like all those conditions, so like the financing, the zoning, it's.
So but if September 28th, we said, we don't have our financing, we don't think zoning, forget zoning, but we don't have our financing.
Right.
So we can just say,
Yes.
Yes.
no,
Yes.
We have raised
as
enough money.
CW Rugby, we're out.
We're out.
And we're out, Matt's 50 grand, is probably
No.
what's gonna
Yes,
cost.
No,
Wait,
No, because the conditions weren't met.
Yeah, if we
Because the
back
conditions
out-
weren't met.
we will have encouraged some.
Yeah, we paid.
So we will have paid money for the process,
Yeah.
right? The money, what we'll be incurring is the money for the process.
Is
right?
that, that's not what Matt's fronting up?
No, Matt is fronting the deposit on the letter of intent.
Spicer will have to fundraise that, basically.
Okay, so that, when that gets pulled, Matt gets 50 back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
if none of those conditions are met, right, Matt gets his 50K back. Now, if we meet all the conditions, right, including fundraising and everything, and then we get the cold feet in September, Matt loses his money.
Yeah. We can also just say we didn't raise the money.
Exactly. Right? So, and that's where it is, right? So like clearing, right? So clearing letter of
Okay.
intent, don't clear the conditions, everything stops,
Okay.
deposit
So
return.
the out is that, Joey, so if the conditions are fundraising,
Yes.
an initial sign,
Zoning. And so it says, purchasers applying for and obtaining, this is to zoning. And then to satisfactory, in brackets, in the purchaser's sole and absolute discretion, financing commitments for the purchase and or development of the property. That's pretty broad.
yeah, that's him deciding, right?
That's,
So
that's
that's-
us saying.
that's-
The purchaser, sorry.
Purchaser.
Yeah, so that's us saying, because obviously right now, nobody would lend us $2 million for this, so.
Yeah.
Right, so let's say
Conventional
Spicer,
lending, no.
yeah, so let's say Spicer's raised $2 million, and we've used up probably, I don't know, 100,000 of it, and, we need now to write a check for this place, well, we'll have the money sitting in the fundraising account. Or we get to September and Spicer's only raised $1 million, we haven't got out of this place, then that's the time we think, do we wanna
So,
take this risk?
Then no, we clear all the conditions, but decide to not do it, everything stops, deposit lost. Right? So let's say we do purchase the property, right? We now have the property. We can manage it. Right? So and on my fundraising, right, doing like month, like MLS mortgage calculator math, if we can raise $900,000 by the end of September, we purchase that property, we can run that property in a revenue neutral rental property into perpetuity. Right?
so you're
And-
saying the maximum debt to keep it neutral is $600,000
Yeah.
for the mortgage?
Right? Because you can probably rent it for $3,500, $4K a month in Oak Bay and cover the taxes.
Go buy new before we do that.
Or you do it mass adjusted and knock it over,
Yeah.
clear the lot,
Just,
and then you.
Exactly. Right? So- but there's options of how you do that, right?
which is good, because
Right.
I just don't want it fixed up.
And so worst case,
And then, but we don't, sorry, if we do get a tenant in there, we can't kick them out, DC tenants rights.
But that's where we go back
So you take it off, yeah.
we can find somebody on the club to rent it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely could find.
And to the comment, I've got experience renting for rugby players, I know how to weed them.
right?
But yeah, okay, so back to, yeah, go.
So now you're holding a property in Oak Bay, right? So we go forward. And then let's say we can't figure out the rest of the financing, we can't figure out how to put a building on there. We can then decide to get rid of the property and liquidate it, right? And then we figure out what we do with that money. And some of those pieces fall into place later. We don't need to answer them tonight.
Hey Rob, just really quick, sorry, if you said the 900 grand, where is that in here?
So you do like it's a MLS calculator. I think I did like in the question sheet, there's a big box.
You mean in the workflow?
Just in your
In the questions.
thing that you sent out here.
In the questions, I
On the
dropped in.
agenda of the meeting, there is a link for a document which I call a FAQ, frequently asked questions, where he's captured as many of the questions and the answers so far, and that's where it is.
And are you, sorry, Rob, is it $900,000 mortgage?
No, fundraising.
Way around. Oh, fundraising.
So
Right, so that doesn't include like our closing costs,
mortgage,
putting a roof on the place, making sure it's got flooring in there, right? So there's a bit of a buffer in there as well, right? That was like a rough order of magnitude, like if we have $900,000, we can make that place rentable, run it revenue neutral, run that for a while.
And that.
Worst case, nothing goes forward, we own property in Oak Bay, and it's going to appreciate, and we will sell it down the road. Or we knock it down, bring the building in, but we don't have to knock it down until we have a plan to put something there. Right, so we can make sure that it's revenue neutral until such a time that occurs. And that goes back to then Spice will do the second phase of the fundraising and solving the DSC question. And then also giving us the last part, which is how do we run that place, right? That's gonna have, there's a few ways around it, and so I was in the bylaws. We can set up another incorporated nonprofit, right? Call it Home with CW. And because someone is the vice president, they are the president of that board. You can do all that, so everyone knows that board is basically a shadow board of this board, right? And it's in the Societies Act, because you're on this board, you end up being on that board for decision making, but it's a separate society, and there'll be some other pieces. So that will then save CW from any liability if this thing did go high order, right? That our club that does rugby is not the club that runs that thing. And then we can structure those bylaws however we want to then include alumni and include sponsors and donors that right now are not included in any of our bylaws.
That's a very good point. And even the kids are not included as members of this club right now, right?
We could, but that's separate. So, but then we could write those bylaws, and we have time to write those bylaws, and then that society is the one that actually does the purchase. Right? In September. And it will always be separate from CWRFC, because CWRFC does rugby on the field. This other thing, Home with CW, looks after the home, the traditions, the culture, all these things that give us like the legacy. And it can be a separate group.
So this is the moral equivalent, or the society's equivalent of creating a numbered account and doing your purchasing through that.
CW is the Catholic boarding school in this scenario.
Cool.
The church is what we're buying.
It's something, these companies do all the time, right? Yeah,
It is
a
like
company that holds all the equipment and a company that just runs the company.
And so, and I know, and because there is like that worry, like, okay, so what if this goes wrong? Are we going to lose our rugby balls and our tackle mats because we have to liquidate everything? No, that keeps, then this whole thing and all this stuff in here will belong to that new organization.
And this gives us time to set that up, and Nate's gonna set it up for us, no charge.
Yeah.
And we got some breathing room. So all we're trying to decide in the next short window is, do we lean into this?
Is the homework worth doing?
Because this is a map, right? Every one of those boxes is like a 3 to 5 page briefing note with more annexes and details, like a communication plan. Like, yeah, that's the first thing in there is we need to do a communication and stakeholder engagement.
And it's a capital fundraising plan that, Spice does that. But what I don't want is to hear any more Spicer talk, and I'll speak honestly, I'd say this to his face, like, it's not about that, it's about do proper process.
Yes.
Who is the guy who's identified who's gonna do the work? Like, Spice can sell and talk to donors, like, but I don't need any more of that, like, that's.
It's a 40K view point of view, right? Now
Yeah.
we gotta get everybody into.
Yeah.
And that's why that motion too, I say a planning group. But they can't commit to contracts, and then everything they do has to come back to the board. So that whatever that group does,
Yep.
they have like some flexibility to move it with some agility, but every big decision comes back to the board for approval. Right? So who we appoint as project manager? Yes, the board will make that decision.
Yep.
Right? any contracts that might get coming forward, the board makes that decision.
That's what we don't want, friends of,
Absolutely, right? So, and that's why in the planning group, those names, those are names of the people who've been just doing the work up till now, right?
Because invariably in clubs like this, like you give one project manager, oh, he's a buddy, he's doing it for low
Yeah.
rates. This guy says, well, we're doing it for free, like, we have to be clear.
Absolutely, and
We've got a lot of different constituents, like parents
Yeah.
of kids and stuff, so, yeah.
And that's the other part with this going forward, right? We are now growing bigger than what is at the DSC, and there'll be like a bit of a sea change in. I heard from Gord yesterday when we were out playing touch. He's not a huge fan of this because it's going to change some of how the senior men have this place for them, right? And Gord was pretty clear. He goes, "It might be great for the club. I don't think it's good for the senior men." Right? And I'm like, at least he was honest,
Yeah.
right? Because I engaged in the discussion when we were playing touch yesterday. But some of that piece, yeah, we're going to have to navigate that stakeholder engagement of our 5 silos, right? We can say one club, but there's 5 silos in the club. And then us as the governance over top of those 5 silos. And all those 5 silos are going to have to be engaged, everyone rowing in the same direction. And there's going to be a lot of personality and politics.
Hey, so the price, what, he's not gonna take a 200,000 haircut, but about a $100,000 haircut.
Yeah, that's what.
Again, we can do the assessment. I would
I
say we
think
type the
that's a
assessment.
conversation for, I mean, I agree with you, by the way,
Oh.
but we're not gonna agree on the price tonight
No,
anyway,
okay.
so.
So on that point, because there's a few people that aren't here tonight and they're going to, they might not sit and watch this video, right? They, I think that when we put this on the online for this first number 6 here, the motion 1, that we explain that in there, that it's, things can be changed in that letter of intent. We have to make that clear to the people that aren't here tonight, because I would have looked at it like, we're all going, that number, how do we get that number? Why, we need to make it clear that, like Clash had pointed out, further down, that can be negotiated. We have to make that clear to the people that are not here.
You probably need
Because
to
you're
put
gonna get a lot of
into
no's.
Version X, you need to.
Maybe
put some
that's-
detail
maybe
on
that's-
that.
We do,
specific.
need- yes, around that part
Just
of
that specific broad out that you, I think you both read out actually.
You, Flash, that was perfect that you read that out. I think that needs to be included for the people that aren't here to explain that to them, because they're gonna see that. I know for a fact they're gonna be like, why the fuck are we at that number? We're all talking about it, but.
So for your notes, if you didn't catch it, it's 5A6 that has that specific wording from the letter of intent.
I think it's probably better in motion to take up new home for the club too, just say a facility for the club. Just potential jobs, right?
I'm starting to like the ring of CWHQ.
Yeah, I do too, I do too. But it takes out the conversation that, oh, it's new, so we're getting rid of this, like, we gotta.
A-home?
TV,
A-home?
a facility for the club, establishing a new pitch side facility, something like that.
How about a new shed?
A large shed.
Maybe move into the shed.
With many rooms.
Well, you know, Bayside talks about
Everyone loves the shed.
Bayside does talk about how their clubhouse was a garage for a number of years before they got the new facility.
Yep.
Well, we got a shed. Get a liquor license for the shed, the rollout bar.
Had you been to it? No. It's an actual garage, shop in an industrial area. John, you wanted to talk?
Yeah, I just echoing that point about pricing, and I think having worked on other deals like this, you can say that, you know, this is the initial offer subject to discovery of other costs, our finance, you know, that it's the LOI, having read it over again, it's very much obviously in our favor, and I think that the pricing, we should maybe beef the wording to be able to say that's maybe have the offer, but subject to other due diligence, costing, et cetera, all at our discretion. So if we figure out that the hydro costs are higher, or if we figure out that the financing costs are higher, or